Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. The heat is on the basketball court. It was on. They're in off season. It's full season. It's prime time when it comes to your home issues. Water, fire, flood. Water Cleanup of Florida will have you covered. They make it nice and easy. You can reach out to them 24/7. I already did myself. They treated me with the perfect kind of care. They'll do the same thing for you. With 6 years of combined experience between Michael, Robert, and their team with licensed contractors, you will be in great hands. And again, like I just said, they'll make it easy for you. And that's should be what we all want. I know it's what I want when something happens in life, especially something that I think is going to stress me out. If someone can help me and make it not stressful, yay. Thank goodness for them. And Water Cleanup of Florida are those people for you with your home issues. Just give them a call, 954-579-0356. 954-579-0356. Reach them on their website, WCUFL.com. WCUFL.com. Mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, 5 Reasons or Lubie, and get a free inspection. Check them out on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Water Cleanup FL, Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. The NBA draft happened last night. The Heat picked 27th overall. There was a few guys there sitting there that had a lot of potential. Of course, they went for the Euro that was young that no one really ever heard of. The only reason anyone has any idea about him is because his name is like the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic. Well, the Heat drafted Nikola Jovic out of Serbia, a guy that has a lot of upside, but it feels like he may not be a ready-made NBA player right now for a team that is contending for an NBA title. Defo and I talked about that. We also talked about how number one was thought to be one thing, then another thing, and then happened to be another thing when it came to the number one pick in the NBA draft. What did that do with draft props, with odds? And you know there's always a degenerate angle, a gambling angle when it comes to the Defo Show with Lubie. So we talked about that and more today on the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Good to be with you, Degenerate Friday, and it was a perfect thing. When is it going to happen that the leagues, all of these sports entities, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, National Football League, I don't know, anybody that's operating a sporting venue there or a sporting platform is going to get sued by one of their partners, in this case either DraftKings or FanDuel or maybe both. Because what happened yesterday with the NBA draft, there would be little interest in the NBA draft if, in the case here in South Florida, where your team really doesn't give a flying one about the draft. They have the 27th pick, and Lubie says they just threw it away. I thought they got Nikola Jokic, and I thought, wow. You got like the MVP? Unbelievable. And what, with the 27th pick? But this was very much, in your opinion, Mike Lubitz, like the Martin Murasep draft, where I believe the Heat were picking 25th. This had to be sometime in the early 90s, very beginnings of the franchise. I want to say maybe mid-90s at the latest. And I remember I was covering a Miami Heat draft party, and it wasn't all that exciting. They might have had another pick in the first round, but which is of some significance. But they used the 25th pick to acquire, in a trade with the Utah Jazz, the rights to Martin Murasep, who there was no video of. I mean, this was weird. I mean, the presentation was a little bit different than it was last night, where a guy gets drafted and they show some highlights and you're thinking, wow, that guy looks great. Every team is excited. Hubie Brown was on the broadcast there, and there was no pick that just wasn't an absolute chess masterpiece. Can you believe this? I mean, Bobby Fischer, Boris Spassky never came up with moves like this. They're talking about each individual team's front office as they drafted guys, most of which were going to be inconsequential and never amount to too much as NBA players, become journeymen and end up playing in Europe. And Brown was just absolutely exuberant about every pick, jubilant. He couldn't believe how smart the people were that drafted the guy, and the kid's upside is tremendous. And I always loved that about the draft, just listening to the hyperbole that was coming out of the mouth of the 90-year-old Hubie Brown, who you respect his basketball opinion. So you're thinking, okay, but he obviously hadn't watched a single college game. And I don't know, did they just give him like one script to read and he just put the different name in there and go, oh, my God, this is the greatest pick I've ever seen.
That's pretty much.
It was fantastic. But we're in there without really a dog in the fight, as they say. Not to get into the whole Michael Vick thing again, but there's really nothing happening with the Heat as far as draft picks go. We know that Pat Riley doesn't care that much about draft picks, although recently he's prospered in that he did pick up Bam Adebayo. Still somewhat. Would you say he's a little bit enigmatic, Bam Adebayo? I mean, a great guy, seems to have that Heat culture thing working. You can smell the Heat culture on this kid, right? Going to work his ass off, going to be a great team player, going to do anything he can to help the team win. Worships at the feet of Pat Riley, and, anything Spoelstra asks him to do, he's going to do. Seems like a perfect fit for any team. You would want this guy, Bam Adebayo, on your team, but there seemed to still be the old question mark in the Mysterians when it comes to is he ever going to be that super elite type of player? You don't necessarily expect to get that, in the mid section of the first round of the draft. What was he, like a 13th, 14th pick, Bam Adebayo?
Yeah.
So, you're lucky if you get a guy that can be that good at that stage of the NBA draft. Usually there's only a handful of guys that you look at and you say, wow, all of those guys are going to be excellent. And out of those, maybe 50% make it. But I like Adebayo. I think he's going to be fine. I don't know. I mean, there's been this debate about whether he's too passive on offense sometimes and more of a facilitator than a guy that looks to score himself and needs to get more aggressive on the offensive end inside. That's possible. I think he can probably overcome whatever it is that's impeding him from satisfying people in that regard. And there have been times when you looked at Adebayo and said, come on, Bam. I mean, you should dominate this game.
Yes.
And, he's, up at the top of the key there, passing the ball off as soon as he gets it or holding it for a while, never even looking at the basket. And you would like to see him kind of shake that out of his game. Tyler Hero is another story. I think Tyler Hero is excellent. I really do.
Yeah.
He had a good, promising first year, slumped a little bit in his second year, and you thought, women weaken legs. But the kid's like 20 years old. He had 1 year of experience. He's in a situation where it's not like he's with the Sacramento Kings where nobody cares. Or maybe to a lesser extent, I don't know, the Orlando Magic. It seems like the organization cares, but they haven't done any good in a long, long time. And nobody wants to stay there. But he's in Miami. Perfect place for a guy like Tyler Hero. The crowd loves the kid.
Yep.
And he really turned everybody on with his play in the first year. Second year was And then this last year, he wins Sixth Man of the Year. He was great in the regular season, but a little bit of a vanishing act in the playoffs. Did not really distinguish himself as that clutch player that everybody's looking for. It wasn't like you were looking at the second coming of Jerry West in that regard. Although after seeing West and the portrayal of West in Winning Time, nobody would want to be the second coming of Jerry West. Jerry West doesn't even want to be Jerry West anymore. He's probably going to change his name, like that poor lady that was in the Capitol, January 6th insurrection hearings, who said she doesn't even like to mention her name anymore because she is the scourge of Georgia. After old Donnie Boy decided, to get into a snit because he actually lost the election by 2 million votes, which is never mentioned, by the way. Have you noticed that?
Exactly.
All we need is to find 11,374 votes. That's on tape, for God's sake. This stuff was wild again yesterday.
I know.
It's hard to get away from it. It really is, because you're looking at it going, how ridiculous is this? And yet, there'll be a majority of people that in 2024, when Trump rolls out the Trump card again and says, I'm going to run for president, will say, you know what, Donnie, you did a great job. Every piece of criminal activity and open defiance of every tenet of the Constitution was violated by you, your family, and all of the people that surrounded you, the sycophants that were too afraid to stand up to you. And thank goodness that there are some honorable people in the United States of America in government. Otherwise, who knows what the hell would have happened there?
Exactly.
I mean, we would end up being Venezuela at that point. Unbelievable. But anyway, that was a whole other sidebar there. Eclipsed, of course, in importance by our takes on the NBA draft. All right, so all day long, and I mentioned this yesterday on the show, that Banchero was like plus 275 to be the number one pick. Plus 275, which would be okay if he was the favorite, but the favorite was minus 300. Jabari Smith, everybody was convinced, and I don't know, did the Magic put that out there? That they already had pretty much come close to a deal with Jabari Smith, that it was a given. Jabari Smith. And, I mean, it seemed logical, didn't it? You're saying of the top three guys that were being bannered about, Holmgren, who went number 2. And, of course, Banchero ended up going number 1 to the Orlando Magic. And Jabari Smith goes number 3 to the Houston Rockets, which is that tantamount to being sent to basketball purgatory now? No disrespect to that Fertitta guy who, let's face it, in our opinion, remains an asshole and always will be. Couldn't root against the franchise any more than the one. Is it Tillman? Is that his first name? Tillman Fertitta?
Yes.
The owner of the Houston Rockets?
Yeah. It's Tillman, yes.
What an adversarial interview we had with that guy. That was ugly. I mean, thrown for a loop right away. As I tried to pay the guy a left-handed compliment, just to get him into the conversation a little bit, and he immediately pulled back, took exception to what I said, and essentially, he didn't even want to talk about his own book anymore. He should have just hung up the phone, right? Wouldn't that have been the appropriate move? Like, hey, listen, DeForest, you're a jerk, and should have got the old hang-up on that thing. And I don't think we're too tough on our interview subjects. We generally invite people on a show that we would like to talk to. Every now and then you're going to get a controversial figure, and you may have to, throw that stuff out there. It's not like you want to soft soap it. It's not like one of these things where we're going to, interview Adolf Hitler, which was always a theory of mine that certain interviewers might have Adolf Hitler on the show and go, hey, Adolf, good to have you on the program. You got a bad rap with the Jews. It's kind of marginalizing something that, should obviously never even be, never disparaged in any way. But nonetheless, there are certain people like that, right? Where, we used to talk about our buddy Hank. And, he had that whole thing where he was attacking Bud Selig. And, this happens once in a while where somebody that you've been absolutely openly attacking somehow ends up on your show. I'm trying to think.
What do you mean? It's happened a million times with us. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We never openly attack someone mean, but
no, we mean no harm to anybody, and we don't mean to be overly, defamatory or inflaming, people to not like somebody. I mean, we did talk about the curse of Rachel Nichols. Did we have her on the show?
No. But
okay.
There's two that come to my mind. First, Mick Hubert was one that we would
I never didn't like Hubert.
But we would mock him because his homerism, before we talked to him and realized he's like a sweetheart, was as homerific gets. So you would do the home-I, we would play the sound, we would do all that.
Can you believe that?
And then we had him on, and he was like really nice. And I was like, dang, he's like really nice. And he would come on whenever we wanted.
But I had great respect for Hubert's announcing because I believe he was perfect for what he was doing with the Florida Gators.
He did a good job,
perfect.
But we'd go after him. Like we would joke, and we weren't being mean, and that's why we didn't feel guilty having him.
He did a good, accurate call also. I mean, he was very accurate in what he said about the game as it was going on.
Mick, and then we did it with a Rinaldi, too. You loved the Rinaldis. And
Rinaldi, yeah.
That's why we called it doing a Rinaldi, because we liked it, but we also made fun of it. Like, it would be like the most ridiculous
even he
thing.
made fun of it.
Yes. And then we had Rinaldi. And
Tiger.
Exactly. That was...
a young boy. Accepting a challenge.
Exactly.
Come on, Tom. But then he would do it himself. I mean, Rinaldi doing Rinaldi was one of the all-time classics here on the show. Anybody, anyway, a lot of people did an about face. Now, here's the thing. Here's the rub, and this relates to degeneracy here.
Yeah.
Where, look, okay, so if you knew for a fact that you were in the Orlando Magic front office, do you think the Magic set this up? Okay, because they're living in a miserable city there, a shithole of a town, Orlando, Florida. Nobody wants to go there. Nobody. A friend of ours just recently moved there, and we read her last rites. As like a yard site candle for her just yesterday, because she moved to Orlando on Saturday last week, and you're thinking that's it. Won't be seeing her around here no more. Now you would think people would come back, but it becomes prohibitive, right, to move back to an area that you moved out of, because it was getting like too expensive for your budget, and you decided, hey, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go somewhere where I can live well within my means at the same sort of level. But unfortunately, you don't have anything, including an ocean in Orlando.
Yeah, exactly.
For my money, and it's funny because I was doing my walk of life. Now I walk up A1A, which is right along the ocean, but it's not actually on the beach. For some reason, well, I mean, it was that knee surgery that reminded me that maybe that's not the best thing for the knees there, is to walk into suction cup like sand. and go a long distance every day, and you're just tearing yourself up. Now, if it's hard as a rock there, like it is in Daytona, where you can drive your car on a beach, that's a whole nother thing. But, I'm walking by the ocean at least, and you can feel the difference, right? In the air and the atmosphere and just the way that, the vibe that you get from a physical standpoint by being near the Atlantic Ocean in this case. We're here on the East Coast. But if you're living in Florida, what would be the point unless you're living somewhere within a reasonable distance of the beach and the ocean? Why would you want to live in the middle of a state where it's 100 degrees every day with mosquitoes the size of clincher softballs? Hey, you going to throw that thing? Oh, no, it's just a bug? Okay. Where you literally have to buy protection for your car because you're going to, have that engine's going to ingest so many bugs that it's likely to stop somewhere, around Kissimmee or Yeehaw Junction, which is one of my favorite towns in the state of Florida. But what would be the point of living here without being near the ocean? So Orlando already becomes somewhat of basketball purgatory, does it not? And it's a real big tease, too, because if you're with the Heat, everybody knows who you are.
Yep.
There's a picture of Pat Riley in the stands, and next thing you know, there's a shot of Tyler Hero, and he's making a three. He does that in Orlando. What are you looking at? Mickey Mouse? I don't know. Old pictures of Walt? Talking about Disney, not Hazard. So, I mean, not a great distinction to be drafted by the Orlando Magic. And Jabari Smith, because they had talked about him being the number one pick as a certainty, the odds posted by like FanDuel and DraftKings, you had to lay 300 to win 100 on Jabari Smith to be the number one overall pick. But it was a foregone conclusion. It was happening. Your man Woj was touting this. Woj.
Yep.
All right, so I'm looking at this yesterday, and I have to give credit to the Brent Musburger if this is still the same organization, which I'm not sure. So
I don't think it is. VSIN
out of my ass.
Still exists. Like the show he does is attached to the VSIN network. Or their network. They air VSIN network shows. So I think VSIN still exists as its own thing.
It could. I don't know. Anyway, the Post carries handicapping from a thing called Action Sports now, which I thought maybe I thought I saw somewhere, read somewhere that VSIN, the Vegas Sports Information Network, which was started by Musburger, he's one of the fundamental elements of that whole thing. And we had the Bury America campaign because we used to read every day the handicapping that he would put out, and it wasn't Musburger personally, but sometimes it was. And, Musburger is, a stone degenerate, and we love that aspect of it. Everybody loved it when he would make those allusions to the over-under. Al Michaels kind of stole that, I think, and became known for it. But he has borrowed material before, and I believe he got that from Musburger. Because nobody was happier when Jimmy was running up to score. And Ara Parsegian was calling a game with Musburger, Notre Dame, Miami, when Jerry Faust lost to Miami and Jimmy Johnson like 55-3.
Yeah.
And there were 3 minutes to go in the game, and Jimmy had all his starters in there. Gino Auriemma was on the sidelines. And Jimmy's, throwing bombs with like no time left in the game while Faust is literally eating like cow manure on the sidelines there, realizing that his days at Notre Dame are just absolutely in minuscule numbered. I mean, there's just no way. And he just kept rubbing it in. And Musburger's like, yeah, Jimmy, way to go. While Parsegian is talking about the fact that this is a disgrace, which was a real, piece of hypocrisy, was it not? Because, how many times did Ara Parsegian run up to score on Iowa Tech as Notre Dame opened up the season with their homecoming game in front of their adoring fans, hundreds of thousands following them everywhere that they went. Unbelievable. Man, the final here is 77-3. I tell you what, Iowa Tech really put up a battle there early in the ball game, and then Aaron and the boys really pulled it out. They threw the ball 100 times in the second half. They did the same number on everybody, and the guy couldn't stand it when it happened. I mean, it's kind of like the bully getting bullied.
Yep.
All of a sudden, the guy's not such a tough guy anymore. Hey, mommy. But Parsegian was crying in the booth, and Musburger was just absolutely, exhilarated by the fact that Jimmy, because he wasn't going to allow any points to Notre Dame in that game, was going to score 55 himself. Clear cut from like the third quarter on, and Musburger had the over in the ball game, and was figuring that the game was going to at least be competitive, maybe like 37-30. He's probably got it at 55, so he needed Miami to score all of those points. And while one guy is celebrating, the other guy is torn to bits and ready to, contemplate maybe ending his life right there in the middle of the fourth quarter. Eric Parsegian. So anyway, we know that Musburger has degenerate tendencies, and I'd seen him at the track a few times, and he was always, very approachable there, and I seemed to just be having a good time. He had his cowboy hat on, and this was at the height of his career as a play-by-play announcer. And, when he was, and this happens a lot with different people that have celebrity status, where you see them in an environment where they're very comfortable, like a racetrack, which is kind of, obviously there are women there, but it always struck me as being like a giant men's social club, where the best part about it was, that there was no real admission fee to the club.
Yep.
And B, you had a lot of friends there that you could relate to at the track, but you never had to see them in any other capacity or walk of life. It was just strictly when you showed up there, right? It was kind of like you showed up at the Turkish Baths or something, right?
I love how you phrase it. You never had to. Like, it's not that, you don't always see them. It was, thank God. You only see them there.
That's it. That's the only place you want to know.
You want to see them.
And I'm sure they felt the same way about me. Like, of course, what an asshole he is. But, at the track, he's a lot of fun because he's always yelling and screaming about how he just got fucked.
That's classic.
Which is a common theme, and an easily shareable emotion.
Exactly.
Getting fucked on a bet. But I mean, you would have been destroyed if you bought into this. Mm-hmm. First of all, it is a little ridiculous to be making this wager anyway. It was not, no matter how sick, no matter how low on the degenerate totem pole you happen to be, no matter how marginal your barometers are and your parameters are for betting on stuff that would normally be unthinkable, like back in the day, where, you used to just bet whether a team would win a game or not. Mm-hmm. Now you're betting whether so-and-so is going to have 19 and a half or more points, and whether this guy's going to make 4 threes, and who's going to shoot the first free throw.
Oh, my God, I saw it last night, and because the handicapping thing, they have the shows everywhere now, and Bally Sports at Landlubbers, they'll show Bally Sports when, like, the Marlins or Panthers aren't playing, so it's a national show, and they do a lot of handicapping. So they were handicapping all sports, and I didn't even know there was that many sports going on right now, so I give them credit. Yes. They're like, total bases for Christian Yelich, and it was like 1 and a hook. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with that. I'm like,
if he gets a double, you win.
Yeah, I'm like, if he gets on base at all, you're almost break even. Like, I'm like, what is going? A push. I'm like, how do you even?
All you need is a bunt, single, and a walk, and you get the over.
Like, if he goes 2 for 2, you're killing it. Like,
of course, he goes 0 for 5 that night with 5 strikeouts.
Yeah, exactly.
If you took the over.
It's like, how specific is that?
Hits for the cycle, yeah. Can you bet for a guy to hit the cycle? I mean, that would be enormous odds. That would be like hitting a pick 6.
Exactly.
It's happened a couple of times, I think, already this year, which, it's somewhat of a rarity. I mean, one of the oddest things about the Marlins franchise is that they've never had a guy hit for the cycle. Now, that was true of the Mets, where they never had a no-hitter until Santana got that bogus no-hitter many years ago, and now they have that combined no-hitter. But imagine with the great pitching the Mets have had. I mean, they had Seaver, they had Doc Gooden, they had Jerry Koosman.
Yep.
So many great pitchers that they had. I mean, like upper echelon, top-notch Hall of Fame guys, and never had the no-hitter, which was really, really weird. And then Santana, I mean, what was up with instant replay in that game where the ball clearly was like...
They didn't have it, remember? They didn't have it yet. Remember, baseball was like one of the last people to like use replay?
Wouldn't want to get the call right, would you? I mean, what would be the point of that? I always love when they go into the former officials. Steve Javie was the guy during the playoffs, right? Steve
NBA.
Javie, the former NBA referee.
He sucked.
and they never have anything to say. They shed zero light on the situation. They had Koharski, who was a former hockey referee and known for that infamous incident where the Flyers coach at the time was screaming, "Have another donut, Koharski, you fat pig." Yeah, I mean, unhappy, obviously, with one of the calls during the game. Now, hockey coaches have every right to get upset. This John Cooper guy, man, I don't know. Does he peel himself off the mat after that defeat in overtime? 6 men on the ice, Lubie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, that was interesting, and we barely talked about that yesterday. It's so funny, but, like, my favorite is hockey person defending that no call, and it's like...
A no call being defended for an atrocious miss.
Yeah, it was like it wasn't like you'll see the guy getting off and there's 1 foot on. It's like, okay, like that would be annoying to call that.
No, he's standing in front of the goal, this guy.
He was playing. Like they had a 6-on-5.
He had the goalie in a headlock. I mean, he really did.
It was like
Vasilevsky, he's got him in a rear naked choke or whatever that is. Which is my favorite move in all of sports, the rear naked choke. What happened to the arm bar? Do people use that anymore, or was that just exclusive to Ronda Rousey? I'm not sure.
No idea.
The arm bar? Because you never see that move in MMA. I was watching some MMA last night.
I can tell.
No, I was. There are a few MMA, performers that if I see that they're fighting and I can watch it without having to pay a fee, I'm willing to watch like that Chris Cyborg. She's such a monster that and I don't know if she's as good as she was.
She's still fighting?
Yes. I think she's a Bellator champion or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And Bellator kind of evolved to, I don't know, it's not really the equivalent of the UFC, but certainly rose in stature, did it not, from the time? Remember we were doing some stuff with those guys when they first came out?
Yeah.
And, of course, we dropped out of that thinking they were never going to make it.
Exactly.
Opportunities to host shows, play-by-play.
Yeah, like
no, we didn't have any of that. Yeah. But it was the same stuff for me. I mean, once again, there's a takedown early in the round, a 5-minute round, and then they lay on the floor for 4.5 minutes, and then finally the bell rings and they get up.
Yep.
And, the announcers are going crazy while nothing's happening. Oh, my God, can you believe this? The judo, the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, the Brazilian Thai Fu or whatever it is, Tofu? I don't even know what they call this stuff. I mean, but how do you identify that? It's just like one guy laying on top of another guy, like when 2 fat guys would fight back in the days in Brooklyn, and, the fatter guy would get the edge and just lay on a guy until they broke it up. I guess it's worth paying to see.
That's what happens.
All right, so I thought about doing this, but I didn't believe it to be true because I was so convinced by the stuff that I read that the Orlando Magic had decided and may have even signed a contract already with Jabari Smith.
Exactly.
And then I'm sitting with the chess man after getting blown off the tennis courts last night by this kid. My God, he's hitting the ball like Roger Federer. It's unreal. I mean, wicked cross-court forehands. I mean, just whistling right by the old man there. And I'm like, you're going to keep this up, kid? You're going to score a point or two.
You're getting bitter.
Well, why don't you just whiff on one on purpose so I don't feel like a completely shot fighter out here. I got you into the game. I bought you your racket.
You want him to tank
whip
it?
my ass
You
so
want
thoroughly,
him to tank it?
I need him to tank it. I'm just getting
great.
blown out every set.
He's taking it serious now. He's actually proud of himself. He's gotten good. And you're like, screw you.
I want him to quit the game. That's, I can't shoot hoops anymore, so that's out. I don't know. There's nothing I could beat him at if I can't beat him at tennis. So that's over. That whole situation has switched, much like the number one and 2 picks. Because then the Smith doesn't even go second, right?
Nope.
So I don't know. Double the agony for a lot of people. Would you have laid 300 if you knew for certain, like some guy in the Orlando Magic organization, told you, hey, look, we have a deal with this guy, so we're going to take him. It's kind of like when Footy knew about the halftime song that Katy Perry was going to do at the Super Bowl.
Yep.
All right, is it a guarantee, absolute, 100% certainty? No, but damn close, right? I mean, that one was because, you're probably going to rehearse the way that you play. You're going to practice the way that you play.
Yes, especially
or you're going to play the way that you practice. Yeah, that would be the cliche that was applied there. Yeah, you know what? You play the way you practice.
That's the saying, yes.
Practice? Okay, so the practice here would have been to follow the logic and the wisdom and everything that was being written said about this, that Smith was going to be number one. Lay 300 to win 100. Lay 3,000 to win 1,000. Lay 30,000 if you're Sheldon G to win 10,000. Sheldon G, I mean, if he knew this, and assumed that it was fact, might have laid 300,000 to win 100. It's like they're giving you money.
Yes.
Okay, so what happens? FanDuel and DraftKings, they get buried by the Orlando Magic last night. Buried. Yes. Now, did Adam Silver look a little nervous? He looked a little pale to me because I think when he made that announcement, he realized he was screwing his partners. Correct? They had taken, well, I mean, I don't know how many people would have been inclined to throw the, 3-1 odds in reverse, right? You're basically, going into a 1-3 shot by taking Jabari Smith. But, and can you really be convinced that the people that are writing about this in the newspaper know exactly what they're talking? Where was this coming from, Lubie? Where was this coming from?
That's a great question.
This whole idea. Because, in the NFL draft, they've already got Burrow signed, right?
Yeah.
If he's a number one
They'll
pick.
sign, especially when it's quarterbacks, they'll sign them before the draft.
It's like, hey, what's it going to take there, Joe? Huh?
Yeah. You're not wrong. Yeah, it's funny because even when it was understood that, John Morant could have been the number one pick, you were going to take Zion, he still was not signed until that night. He wasn't announced. That's true. The NFL is, I think, the only one that does it like that, where you can.
The hype around Zion, I think, precluded the Pelicans from taking Jean Morant.
Yeah.
Don't you believe that? I mean,
100%.
look, nobody really knew that Morant was going to turn into what he has as a pro. I mean, as great as he might have been as a collegiate, it was hard to envision this.
Yeah.
And Zion Williamson, when you were watching him as a collegiate, you thought, wow, this kid loves the game. He's a lot of fun. He's got that compelling personality. Even though he doesn't say much, everybody really enjoyed watching him play.
Yep.
He was an entertaining player who played very well and dominated the college game. And what they didn't realize was, New Orleans is probably the last place that this guy should be.
Exactly.
It's not like red beans and rice is going to help you get in shape to go 82 games in the NBA, is it?
Oh, my God.
You have to be careful. Right? You have to be careful. Just the fact that I'm going there, I already looked in the mirror today, this morning, and while shaving, said to myself, be careful there.
Exactly.
Be careful.
Po' boys.
You want to eat everything. You want to eat
beignets.
everything. And you can't do it. At 71, you can't do it.
No one can. Only Mike Mayo. Mike Mayo is the only one that can somehow eat at every restaurant because he eats 7 places a day.
There's a price to pay for that.
Well, duh.
There is. Yeah.
A lot of prices.
Yeah, I mean, the years keep mounting up, and if the pounds keep mounting up, you're putting yourself in a very precarious position.
Yep.
Long term, right? Because even if you do drop the weight later on, the damage is already done. It's kind of like, do I regret doing all that blow in the early 80s? Of course. I don't know how I'm still alive. I really don't. But the heart can't. I mean, when I recently, I guess it was a couple of years ago, I had to go to see this heart doctor, and because I was having that knee surgery, so that was 2019.
Yeah, pretty bad.
And they saw something on one of these graphs, and they said, "Oh no, we can't do the surgery. You got to go see this guy and that guy." And I don't know, is that just a racket? They send you around the horn there to a million doctors.
I'm hoping not.
They probably, they look at your insurance card and go, Medicare? Okay, here's what you got to do. You got to see my buddy Joe over there at Holy Cross, and then you got to go to Baptist Central,
see my buddy.
like every Catholic hospital.
Oh my
All
God.
right? It's, you're not going to Mount Sinai there. I mean, you're going to every Catholic hospital that you can find, and they're sending you to a million specialists. But the guy told me, actually, after all of this examination, he said, your heart's in perfect shape. I said, that's a miracle. I didn't want to admit to him why.
That's a miracle.
No, it isn't.
One thing you get with the Defo show with Lubie here on 5 Reasons Sports Network is laughs. You may not laugh, but we laugh. We have a lot of fun here on the show. Appreciate you checking us out. The Miami Heat went Euro. Look, we've seen them go overseas and it worked. We've seen them go overseas and it not work. To me, a team that's ready-made to win now, when Hardy was sitting there, when Liddell was sitting there, guys that have a lot of potential that can add to the wing, add to the guard, add to the forward spot, which the Heat center big. They need help with bigs, and they need help on the perimeter when it comes to some scoring and defense. And you go Euro, big, young. It feels sort of like a stash away, but we'll see. Riley raved about the pick, and Riley usually doesn't give a crap about picks, especially in the second half of the first round. So we'll see what that pick actually means. If you want to check out more of what we have to do, our exclusive content podcast each and every day, The Believe Network. We talked with Len Robbins, King of the Degenerate, longtime New York Post writer, sports columnist, been with Madison Square Garden, been with the Brooklyn Nets, now with Bet Basics, and doing some other things. always hilarious, knows his sports, covered pretty much every major sport in America for decades, been a national voice, and he's really a lot of fun. He's our conversation today. The Believe Network, After Hours. Just go to BLEAV.com, search After Hours. Each and every morning, check us out. South Florida Live. YouTube, look up South Florida Live. Google, look up South Florida Live. YouTube or Google, look up The Defo Show with Lubie. Check us out each and every morning, Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 live. And right here, our South Florida skewed content, The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.